Hello, Facebook, and welcome to the Colorado Springs School of Massage Facebook Live session for today, Saturday, the 31st of October. Happy Halloween. So, hey, come on in. We've got all kinds of people asking us about trigger points, and I thought that would be our talking point today. So come on in, have a seat. We've had so many people with referred pain, myofascial pain syndrome, trigger points. They think they're Charlie horses. They think that something's wrong. Well, let's talk a little bit about what trigger points actually are, and then we'll talk about how to treat them. Myofascial trigger points. They're an extremely common cause of pain. They're painful when you press on them. Sometimes they're painful when you're not pressing on them. Some of them stay very localized, and some of them actually refer pain to a distant part of the body. They feel kind of like little marbles under the skin. For a lot of people, they just don't know how those trigger points came about. So I'm going to read a little bit here. How trigger points are formed. Repetitive overuse injuries from activities such as typing, mousing, handheld electronics, gardening, home improvement projects, your job many times when you've got a lot of repetitive activity in there. Think about cashiers. They're constantly sweeping the price of the product over their scanner. That activity can create all kinds of myofascial pain distortions and pain. Sustained loading, as with heavy lifting, carrying babies, carrying your puppy around, or maybe just your briefcase. That kind of repetitive activity also can cause trigger points. Habitually poor posture due to our sedentary lifestyles. Oh, for all you couch potatoes out there, trigger points might be one of your consequences. Muscle clenching and tension due to mental emotional stress. How many of you are clenchers? I know I am, man. You clench like that, and pretty soon your jaw muscles will start to tense up, and if you don't do something about it, they will form little trigger points in them, and you don't want that. Direct injuries such as a blow, a strain, a break, a twist, or a tear. Think about like car accidents, for example, or sports injuries, falling down the stairs or slipping on ice. All of those things can cause muscular stresses that can eventually lead to trigger points. Surprisingly, trigger points can even develop due to inactivity. So if you got a couple or 3 days off and all you do is just sit there and binge some Netflix, beware, you might have trigger points as a result. So what are some of the things that out there in the medical community you might hear is the resolution for your trigger points, your myofascial pain syndrome? Well, medications. A lot of doctors will just tell you, go home, take some painkillers, take some anti-inflammatories or some muscle relaxers, and that'll help. Well, yes, it can, but it's not going to directly mechanically resolve the knot. It's just going to relax the area. Dry needling. Dry needling is it's a fairly new phenomenon. They're using needles to go in there and aggravate. And I keep pointing to this. A little bit later on, we're going to talk about my trigger point. That's why I keep pointing at that. But they use needles to kind of jab it, and the muscle will eventually release. If that's not enough, trigger point injections. They will take a saline solution or some Novocaine and shoot it right into the area where the muscles are not functioning correctly to get those muscles to relax. You can use ultrasound therapy as well, using ultrasonic waves to kind of settle down those muscles. And then massage therapy, they put that at the last of the list. And you know what? I didn't put it at the top. I'll put it at the end so that I could talk about it in detail. So there are many, many different styles of massage. You've got your Swedish massage for relaxation. You've got your deep tissue massage, which will approach the second, third, and fourth layers. Neuromuscular therapies. That's where you start finding a lot of the more fix-it style massages, the therapeutic variety of massage. And the primary way of resolving a knot in a muscle is through direct compression. You'll sit there and you will create what's called an ischemic compression. And for all of our students out there, what is ischemia? Lack of blood flow. So what do you want to do? You want to choke out the blood supply to that knot, or trigger point in this case, until it can no longer continue to fire. It doesn't have oxygen, it doesn't have fuel, it doesn't have circulation, and so pretty much the muscle passes out, if you will. Then you can release it rub it out, and then go on to the next area where there might be some more trigger points. Because if there was one, there might be more. So make sure you investigate that whole area as you're working on the muscles to get that relief that that client is looking for.
So is a trigger point a knot?
A trigger point is a knot. Now, knots are kind of a general overall catch-all phrase where that means that there's a lot of dysfunction in the muscle. The muscle is overly tight. If the muscle is overly tight, sure, it feels like fibrous tissue. It feels like it's pretty tight, but when you have a knot, now you've got fibers in the muscle that are bunching up. They're going into little microspasms, and that's where you have knots. A trigger point is different from a knot in that the trigger point will very likely radiate pain to a distant part of the body. So if I have a trigger point up here in the upper part of my arm in my deltoid, very likely when I go to work on that knot, on that trigger point, you'll feel it down the arm. When I'm working rotator cuff muscles for some of my clients, they'll say, oh, that's it. I could feel that all the way down to my hand. And so trigger points are different from knots in that they refer pain. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions out there?
So how do you teach your students to identify a trigger point and how to alleviate it?
Well, we're going to show you how we do that in our next video in a couple of minutes with the Joe's Body Shop Facebook Live. But in essence, we go through our palpation, looking for tight spots. And of course, we've been alerted to that area because the client says, yeah, I have got this pain in my arm that won't go away. So now we're looking for inconsistencies in the muscle fiber. That feels kind of medium tight. That's a nice, strong muscle. And we get up here, now all of a sudden, it feels like it's ropey. It's like a small cable in there. And as we go through that cable, we're going to find what feels like a little marble. It's a very, very tight part of the muscle. And so now is when we start applying the ischemic compressions, deep glides. We can use stretches. We can go in there and stretch out this muscle here to try to pull the knot out of the muscle. And it's not really like it's all tangled, but what it is that the muscle has tightened up to protect an area where there may be an injury. Perceived or an actual damage to the muscle, either way, if you have overstressed a muscle, it's going to react as though it's injured, and that's how it does it. It does it by tightening up the muscles around it. And so from there, we start applying all these techniques until we feel resolution. And we feel resolution in that it doesn't feel cordy anymore. It may feel a little bit that way, but it's more spongy, and that is good. That means that the muscle has now filled with circulation, and it is now resolving itself. Cool?
Very.
Cool. So if you find yourself slipping on ice, or if you're out there raking leaves and this motion, you did it about 450 times in an hour, call us. If you wind up getting into a car accident, this is that time of year when the weather is changing, you might hit some black ice, and you may not create a bunch of damage, but anytime you have a rapid deceleration in a car, it's very likely that you're going to strain some muscles. Have your spouse call in and schedule a massage for you, or schedule it yourself, but do take care of yourself. Don't let it just start piling on, because another incident 2 weeks from now, towards the end of the month, another incident. By the time Christmas gets here, you're going to be a great big old knot. And so don't wait until that time. Give us a call and we'll get you with a student to get a student massage, or you can get one of our professionals to work that knot out for you. So the number, 719-310-9297. You can look us up online, csschoolofmassage.com. So we've got students that are in student clinics, so I would invite you to come get a student massage. We're also enrolling for January. If you want to learn how to do this stuff, if you've had that in the back of your mind and you want to become a massage professional, we are enrolling right now. So give us a call, and until then, happy Halloween. Don't eat too much candy. See you next time. Bye-bye.